Let's chat. Hey guys, it's me, Wendy. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here and you don't know who I am, my name is Wendy. I'm 24 years old. I currently live in San Francisco and I work in tech. So I figured I would do a little bit just of a life update. I got a couple of comments asking me just sort of what my plan for the next year is. And I do have a couple of changes coming up. So I figured it'd just be a good time to sit down and talk about them. So just a little bit of background because I do work in tech. I feel like tech companies have been really flexible with work from home and have been kind of some of the first companies to really announce their plans for work from home. So my company announced a little while back that we would be working from home full time until next August, so August 2021. It's kind of what I expected. I really didn't think we would be going back to work any time sooner than that. And if anything, I'm actually kind of mentally prepared for it to be pushed back. I feel like what's been happening recently is everyone just gives these almost arbitrary timelines that are really far ahead with the hopes that things will be better, and then we get closer to timeline and things aren't better and we just push it back. When they first announced this, I kind of had a rush of thoughts and emotions. I started kind of thinking about, should I do something drastic? You know, I have a lot of friends who are moving out of San Francisco for sure, either moving back home, but I also have some friends who are just moving to somewhere that they've always wanted to go to. And yeah, so I thought about, should I move back home? Should I move somewhere random? All these ideas I was sort of entertaining. But what I've decided in the meantime, I'm planning on going home and I'm just going to stay there and I'm just going to come back to San Francisco whenever the time is right. And I will be determining that based on my feeling. I will still be paying for rent. I'm just going to be visiting for a prolonged period. As of right now, I'm thinking that I'll probably be back for around a half a year, like 6 months or so. And around that time when I come back, it will be around August and I'll be able to go back to work given that the timeline isn't pushed back. I know you've been following along with the news and what's been going on in California, but we've been having really awful fires. And this actually also happened last year when I was here as well, my first year in California. And definitely seems to be a yearly occurrence at this point due to climate change and global warming. So we've been kind of dealing with very poor air quality for I think around a month at this point it's been. And there are definitely some days where we just can't go outside or we can't open windows because the air quality is that bad and it's physically unsafe. So that is basically my life update. It's really nothing too big. I think for now this is the best decision for me. I didn't really want to completely move out. I don't know. I just wasn't comfortable with the idea of paying for rent during the time I'm gone. That's just something I'm willing to eat up at this point. Just figured I would give you a quick life update. Well, we'll see where life goes from there. Okay, so I just woke up to my alarm thinking that I accidentally set my alarm at the wrong time, but apparently this is what 8:30 a.m. in SF is looking like today. So it legit looks like there is an apocalypse happening outside. I have never experienced anything like this in my life before. So very, very strange day for sure. The 2 years I've lived in San Francisco, there's been very awful wildfires that have been happening. So it's clearly not just an isolated incident. And it just really makes you kind of think about what you can do as an individual to help our planet right now. I just immediately this morning rebooked my flight to be a week earlier, which I know is not like that much earlier, but I do feel like I need to mentally prepare for this trip back. There's a lot of logistics I need to figure out, and I'm like pretty stressed about flying, to be honest. I didn't really want to book it to be too soon, like next week. So I actually wanted to share some of my thoughts about working from home. So I've been working from home for 6 months now. My company actually allowed us to start working from home even before the SF shelter in place was ordered. Personally, I actually found the initial transition to working from home pretty smooth. My company in particular, I felt like we already had a lot of the necessary tools in place to make virtual working effective. So we already use Slack, which is basically just like a chat service, like GChat, for example, that a lot of companies will use to have their employers be able to communicate on. So I know a lot of companies actually don't use Slack or really didn't have like a designated way to communicate with one another. Additionally, I feel like because we are a larger tech company, we have a lot of processes and workflows already in place. So we kind of already have like a set way of doing a lot of things, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Now, I will say that on a personal level, in terms of productivity, I actually have not really noticed that big of a difference. If anything, I would say I feel more productive when I'm in an office setting. I just personally am somebody who I'm very extroverted. I'm a people person. I get my energy from others. So I feel like when I'm in the office, I am just way more amped up versus being at home. I would prefer to be in the office. I know that I do have some coworkers who feel that they are way more productive when they're at home. So I definitely think it varies from person to person. What I've noticed is that when I'm in the office, I have more frequent interruptions, right? You might have a coworker who taps you on the shoulder. You might run into someone in the hallway and either catch up or, talk about a project that you guys are working on. So I feel like the amount of uninterrupted time that I have while I'm in the office, it's shorter periods of time broken up by more interruptions. But those interruptions are also shorter as well compared to when I'm working at home, because you might, have a conversation with a coworker for 10, 20 minutes, and then you get back to work, and then you might have another conversation with another coworker for another 5, 10 minutes, get back to work. Versus at home, I feel like I have longer chunks of time in which I'm uninterrupted and super, super focused. But then you also have longer chunks of distraction time, if you will, because the distractions that are available to you at home just take longer than the ones that you might be experiencing in the office. For example, laundry, running to the grocery store, things like that just take longer. There isn't like that much difference in productivity because it sort of just adds up being the same, if that makes sense. I have noticed that I definitely work later than I did in the office just because I have that flexibility. I think the main benefits of working in an office is it's just that like in-person spark, that feeling you get when you pass someone in the hallway and you guys just come up with a random, really, really great idea for a project. Or you might be at lunch and you and your coworkers figure out the solution to something, to an issue that your team was facing. Those type of conversations just don't happen when you're at home because you're just simply not around people. You don't have those like accidental conversations. When you do talk to someone, when you message someone, it has to be very intentional. And I do think that some of the best, most innovative, creative conversations are accidental. I think that bigger companies that are already established and maybe don't need to be as innovative as they once were because they already have everything in place, that might not affect them as much. But I do think that startups and smaller companies that still have a lot of room to grow and a lot more innovation that they can do might have a tougher time right now. Those are basically my thoughts about work from home so far. So with that, I'm gonna get back to work and finish up a couple more things.